Hey everyone, I am going to be painting. Thank you. By the way, a new subscriber, I believe she said she was from Switzerland or Germany, and she wanted to see some little forget-me-nots. So the perfect brush for those would be this fun little Select Princeton brush. It's a filbert. And it makes those little petal shapes really easily. I'm going to show you right here. So let me just pick up a little bit of blue paint. I'm going to be painting blue forget-me-nots today. And by the way, I'm going to be using my MeiLang palette. Such a great little palette. The colors are really fabulous. It's a great price point if you're a beginner. So you don't have to invest in those Winsor Newtons unless you really want to spend that money, and that's fine. I typically would use Winsor Newtons, but for my everyday painting, I'm using that MeiLang. And this is my palette I'm going to be using, which is the Meeden product. Love the palette because it's very heavy duty. It's got nice deep wells, and the main thing is it's got these really large mixing areas, which for me, I love because I tend to use a lot of area when I'm mixing. So I'm going to try and capture both my painting and my mixing area, and I will link both of these. I have been asked recently a lot about using the 2 wells of water. This, by the way, is also Meeden, and I really love it a lot. So you have one side, if you're a beginner at watercolors, because watercolors are so transparent, you want to make sure you're always using a really clean brush. So you have one side to wash your brush and then the other side to rinse. And this is a great little well. I'll link all of these for you guys. All right, so today we're going to be creating these little blue forget-me-nots. And the filbert brush, because of the shape of it, which is really great, makes honestly, these little forget-me-nots, which are 5 petals, just so easy because it's already shaped. So I'm just going to be dabbing. I mix some blue paint here, which is that very light value. We'll also be maybe mixing in a little bit of turquoise or maybe some purples or maybe even pinks. And it's that tea consistency. And then I'm just really going to be doing some dabbing here for these forget-me-nots, and that's really it. So we're going to use some different values, meaning darker color, and to get that darker color. So right now I've got about 90% water, 10% pigment. To get the darker value, which will make our painting really interesting, we would want to go in with more pigment, less water. All right, but let's just practice maybe this a bit. So just wetting my brush, grabbing that pigment, and just creating some of these fun little shapes like that. And we're just going to do a whole bunch of these, maybe mixing in, to be honest, I don't even know if forget-me-nots come in pinks. I believe they do. So we can mix in some of that and it'll create these really pretty purples. And then we will use a Princeton brush. I'll probably use this 6 Princeton Velvet Touch Long Round because I love the point here. If you have the Dagatos, which are a great beginner brush, for this one brush you get, it's maybe $9, but it's a really great brush. I love Princeton. And if you want to go a little bit less, you can get a whole set of these Dagatos, which I've been using for about 5 months, and they're great. They've kept their points. I'm really kind of surprised by them. You get a whole set for $11, and you get all different sizes. I think of about maybe 5 to 7. I forget now. And then we'll just add our stems and our leaves with the 6 long round. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I am using, for those of you that follow me, my favorite Artisto pads. Just love them. The spiraling, you can keep all your paintings together. Perforated if you do want to rip them out, and they have this beautiful texture. So these are a great value, I think, for the beginner. This is what I use daily. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to grab that blue. And in the MeiLang palette, this is, let's see, they're referring to it as, I believe, cobalt blue. Let me just double check that. Yeah, but you can, I mean, really use any blue. If you're following me with the Winsor Newton, cerulean would be really pretty here. And then you could mix maybe magenta or in the MeiLang palette, rose red, something like that. Really doesn't matter. Just grab whatever you like. And I'm going to start with the lighter value, of course, of my paints, because we can always go darker. So let's go ahead and start here. I'm just dabbing. So I'm holding my brush somewhat horizontal and just dabbing on here to get those 5 petals. And you can leave a little yellow space in the middle just so we can go in with maybe some yellow. Like that. Really cute. These are such cute little flowers. Thank you to that subscriber who asked about these. I was thought that might be fun. So I just went in with a little darker value there, if you can see that. And kind of play with these, maybe turn some different directions. Make some of the petals a little bit shorter. For the most part, I'm making this really simple, and I'm doing these kind of head on. And while that's wet, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wash my brush in the right side of that beautiful little Meeden container, ceramic. And I'm going to pick up some yellow. So let me grab some CAD yellow, which should be the same. That's actually lemon yellow, which should be the same in your Winsor Newtons. And I'm going to keep this a little bit thicker. So it's probably 50-50 as far as paint and water ratio. And let's just go in while this is a little bit wet. And look how pretty that is. And kind of dab into the middle. And I'm doing this while it's wet so I get a little bit of that spread, because I just think that's so pretty. And then I'm going to wash that brush, just set it to the side, always bringing my brush to a point. Pick up my Select Filbert brush again, which is also Winsor Newton. And I'm going to go for a few more of these fun little flowers. Now, I've picked up a different value. If you remember this last week, let me see if I can find it. I suggest playing with your values of your paint, because what brings so much interest to your painting is if you're varying the values. So with that blue I'm using, what I would suggest is go in with your darkest value. So there's our darkest value, okay? And then I'm going to add a little bit of water and just create a little bit lighter value. So I could even, and this is why it's so important to practice this, because you want to get that value down. Because we want to use all the values. So if you can see there, that's a little bit lighter. Now I'll add a little bit more water. Get a little bit lighter. Little bit more water. Little bit lighter. Okay? So in our painting, we want to make sure to really make it interesting. We want to add all these different values, because as you can see, this really pops out in front. This is going to feel like it's in the background. So when you're doing a painting, make sure to play with those values and that you're using all of them in your painting. So I've got a really light value here, which is this one. And then I've got a really dark value there, maybe mid-range. And I would suggest using 3 to 4 values in your paintings just to keep it kind of interesting. So let's pick this up. And I'm going to apologize right up front because I think my gardener just got here, so hopefully that isn't going to play out too much in this video that you can hear them. Pick up a little bit more of that blue paint. And again, playing with these values, so I'm using both dark and light values. Now, before this completely dries, I will go in and pick up some of that yellow. You can tap off if you're not sure if you have too much water. And just go in and tap in. Now this one is dry, so I'm not going to get that beautiful spread. But that's okay, because we want them all a little bit different. And then rinse that brush and set it down. Pick up some more blue paint. And we'll just keep. Now I'm really making all of these from the same perspective, which is they're all facing us, because I'm trying to keep this a little bit simple. 2, 3, 4, 5, there we go. And I might add in, maybe let's just play with a little bit of pink here. Might be kind of fun, right? Create some little purple ones. Again, making sure I'm getting different values. So this is quite a dark value. This is a little bit lighter. Maybe we'll do one to the side. You could have one peeking out here from behind this one. And I would make sure this is dry before I go in with that one being that close, because if this is wet, wet goes to wet, so it would blend in here. So just having a few peeking out, but look at how cute this is. One here, 4, 5. And this filbert brush just makes it so easy. You don't have to even shape the petals. It just automatically is in the correct shape. I'm going to go in with maybe a little darker value here, and let's see what that does. So I'm picking up some more paint. Not going to put as much water. And there you go. Maybe a little darker of that pink one. So I'll go in and pick up some of that. You can't see my pink paint here, but I don't think I can push my palette up. But there's a darker value. Now I did tuck it behind, which would mean it was behind, but these two are kind of the same value scale, so they just look like they're tucked in behind. Normally, if the darker the value, you're going to want to put in front, because that's kind of makes sense, right? There you go. Let's go in. I'm going to wash my brush, rinse it in the rinse water. Maybe tap it off a little bit and pick up some more of that blue. Maybe tuck some in here. In here. Just really playing with these, getting kind of playful with them, putting them behind each other, different values. And I'm working with kind of this composition of, I'm going to have it fan out like this. I kind of like that. And I'm also making sure I'm not lopsided on my colors, so I'm spreading around the pinks, I'm spreading around the blues. I don't have all dark values on the bottom. I'm really playing with them all. There we go. Look how easy that is. So I'm just going to come out. Now that one turned kind of purple because the red and the blue mix. I'm going to try and get a couple darker values here. There we go. So that flower, see how that popped out? Let's go for a little darker pink. Let me wash and rinse my brush, which you really don't have to. It'd be kind of fun to mix, let the two colors mix, I think. So that's a pretty dark value. That's about 90% paint, 10% water. But let's Watch this when I put it over. That just popped that flower right out, right? Isn't that pretty? It popped it right out in front. Now we want to be careful with those values. So, because your eye's going to be lead, so you wouldn't want to put all your dark values in one area because then your eye would stop there. So right now my eye's going to 3 dark pink values, so I might want to put one darker value up here, like that. Maybe one small one right here, something like that. Okay, so there's equal balance on those. Got this darker value blue here. I think at this point I want to go in, I'm just going to wash that beautiful little filbert brush. If you guys are really into the florals, for me, my can't do without brushes for florals are going to be either that Degato set, which is absolutely wonderful value and great points, quite stiff and snappy, is either the 8 and the 6 Princeton, because this one is a little bit thinner line, and the filbert. I think those are the go-to ones. And again, I apologize. I'm so sorry if you can hear the gardener. They came a little bit early today. Let me grab some of my green paint. I typically use the Winsor Newton Olive and Sap Green. In the MeiLang palette, I believe it's going to be called Hookers and maybe a yellow green or tree green, whatever green you like, really, it doesn't matter. And then let's go in and start creating. We're going to kind of make a little bouquet here. So using the very tip of my brush, and I've got about 90% paint, 10% water, and just start drawing very light pressure with the very tip. So sorry for that gardening thing, you guys. And just start creating these little stems coming down like this, and then just like that. You could add in some other random ones, and you can certainly also maybe create some lighter colored stems. And then we're going to go in and just wash your brush a little, and let's pick up a lighter value, meaning a little bit more water, and we're going to add in a few little leaves. And I'm just really, for these forget-me-nots, I'm just dabbing, okay? So let me show you. I'm just dabbing like that, and I'm varying the size of those dabs for interest. So there we go. Just like that. Just adding in a few here and there. Pick up, see if I can pick up maybe a little darker value. Vary some of the values of those leaves so that, oh my gosh, I sure hope you guys can't hear this too bad. Oh my gosh. Can't believe they came in the middle of my video. And I'm branching out a little bit, okay? So I'm kind of going like this. There we go. And you can go back and add some of those yellow centers if you like. So I'm just gonna wash my brush and pick up some of that yellow. Okay, so now let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and add some of those yellow centers in. I'm just going to grab a little bit of this cad yellow, which is the same in Winsor Newton and in this MeiLang palette. And let's just go back in, and now my flowers have basically dried, so I'm not going to get that spread with the yellow centers I'm adding in, but that's okay. Let's go in, and I'm just using the very tip of my brush. That's why it's so important to really protect that integrity of your tips, because We want to be able to get both the wider brush stroke and the thinner little lines like this. And if you're scrubbing your brush or you're not storing it correctly when you're done using it, you're going to, you know, fray out your tip and it's not going to work well. Okay, so there we go. The only thing I feel like I kind of want to add to this is maybe a little lighter value of a few petals, leaves, to look like they're in the background. So I have a very light wash of the green, and I'm just going to go in and just like that. So see, immediately that really brought some depth to the painting by using a lot of water and a little bit of paint. And it just gives that sense of depth. I love that. I might even branch out a little bit because, like I said, I wanted this to really look like a V. So let's add a little bit coming out here and there. Could even go in between, something like that. Okay. And I think we are done. There you go. All right, well, have fun with this, everybody. I think this was a fun little one, and I will list the description of all my paints in the bottom. All right, thanks, everyone.